Neuron is the structural and functional unit of central nervous system. So it becomes important to start the nervous system by discussing the neuron structure and its type. Hey everyone, welcome to HM Learnings. I am Harshita, the creator of HM Learnings, where students come to clear their concepts and to get the study material. Make sure that you have subscribed my channel. So let's start by discussing the parts of the neuron first. Okay, so neuron has basically three parts. The neuron has three parts, and these three parts are cell body, dendrite, and axon. So these are the three parts of the neuron. Okay, we will look one by one on this. Okay, so first we look at the cell body. So this is the cell body of the neuron. This part is the cell body of the neuron. So cell body of the neuron is also called as the soma or the perikaryon. Okay, so the cell body of the neuron has the cytoplasm. You can see here is a cytoplasm, then it has the nucleus also, then the mitochondria is also there in the cell body. Other organelles like the Golgi apparatus, lysosomes are also present, and the Nessus granules are also present. Okay, so the neuron has the cell body has a nucleus, and nucleus has what? It has genetic material, it has DNA. So the cell body will be capable for what? It will be capable for the synthesis of the protein. Then a very important question which is asked repeatedly in the NEET PG is regarding the Nessus granule. So Nessus granules are what? Nessus granules are actually nothing but these are the rough endoplasmic reticulum bodies. So as they are rough endoplasmic reticulum bodies, so they will be have what? They will be having the ribosomes on their surface. Okay, and this Nessus granules can actually extend into the dendrites, but they are not present in the axon. Okay, so this is very important to remember. Then the next part of the neuron is what? Is the dendrites. So second part is the dendrites. So these are the dendrites. So from the one end of the cell body, this is a cell body, from the one end of the cell body there are numerous processes which arise, and these are called as the dendrites. Okay, so dendrites have which function? Dendrites are actually having the receptor function. They act as a receptor. They having the receiver function. What does it mean? It means that this is a neuron, just like that there will be a one neuron here must be. Okay, so from this neuron the impulse is coming, and that impulse will actually be received by the dendrite. So the impulse will be received by what? It will be received by the dendrite. So that's why the dendrites have which function? They have the receptor function or they have the receiver function. Then as they have a receiver function or the receptor function, they increase the surface area for receiving the information by what? By increasing their number. So dendrites are actually numerous in number, so that there is increase in the surface area available for receiving the information, available for receiving the impulse. Okay, and another way of increasing the surface area furthermore is that these are the dendrites. These dendrites further branch out. These dendrites further branched out to form what? To form the dendritic spine. So these dendritic spines will further increase the surface area available for receiving the information. Okay, so this was for the dendrite. Now the third part of the axon of the neuron is the axon. Okay, so before axon you can see here this part. So this part is actually which part? This part is actually a part of a axon. It is a part of a cell body. This part is actually a part of a cell body. The thickened end of the cell body. and this is called as the axon hillock. The thickened end of the cell body is called as the axon hillock. Okay, after this the axon starts. After the axon hillock, the axon starts. Axon hillock is the last part of the cell body. After axon hillock, there will be starting of the part of the neuron called as the axon. Okay, so the part of the neuron, the part of the axon from where it begins is called as the initial segment of the axon. So this is the initial segment of the axon. Okay, initial segment of the axon is the part from where the action potential begins in the motor neuron. So we will talk about this in more detail when we deal with the action potential. Okay, then as you can see that as we move towards the end of the axon, this whole part from here to here, this is the axon. Okay, so as we move towards the terminal part of the axon, you can see here, from here the axon divides into the many branches. Okay, and these branches are called as the telodendria. So these are the branches of the axon when it moves towards the terminal. Okay, so after dividing into, this is the axon, it divides into the multiple branches. Okay, and when it divides into the multiple branches, it ends into a enlargement which is actually a bulb like. This is an enlargement which is bulb like, and these enlargements are called as a synaptic knob. Or also called as the terminal buttons. Okay, so these synaptic knobs or the terminal buttons has what? They have the vesicles. Which contains what? Which contains the neurotransmitters. Okay, so this we talk about. This we will cover when we talk about the neuromuscular transmission, when we talk about the synapse, what are neurotransmitter, what are their function, what are the types of neurotransmitter. We will cover it in the upcoming videos. Okay, so we know that the dendrites has the receiver function, they act as a receiver, but the axon has which function? Axon act as a transmitter because they transmit the impulse, so they act as a transmitter. So dendrite has a receiver function and the axon has a transmitter function. Okay, furthermore you can see that just like the cell body has the cytoplasm, the axon has also the cytoplasm which is called as the exoplasm. So this exoplasm also has the organelles like the mitochondria, cytoskeleton and the Golgi apparatus. Okay, then another thing here, you can see this thing, this is called as the myelin sheath. So this myelin sheath, very important again, this myelin sheath in the case of peripheral nervous system, it is formed by the Schwann cells. So this is a spinal motor neuron. So here you can see this blue color structures are the Schwann cells which are forming the myelin sheath. Okay, and in the central nervous system, this myelin sheath is formed by the oligodendrocytes, which are a type of a CNS cells. Okay, so this is repeatedly asked in your NEET PG, so you have to remember this. So this is an example of which type of neuron? This is a type of myelinated. Which type of neuron? Myelinated neuron, because it has a myelin sheath. So this is actually a myelinated axon, or you can say a myelinated neuron. Okay, then in the next slide you can see this is an example of unmyelinated neuron, because here you can see there is no myelin sheath. Again, what is the importance of myelin sheath? What is myelin sheath? We will cover when we talk about the synapse, when we talk about the properties of synapse, when we talk about the nerve impulse transmission. Okay, so we will cover these topics later on. Then the next thing is the types or the classification of the neuron. Okay, so many books gave only 2 classifications, some of the books gives even the 4 classifications of the neuron. Okay, basically these two, number 1 and number 2, these two are the most important. Others you can skip as per your convenience, because these are not given in most of the books. Then here I will also focus on only these types of classification of the neuron, number of processes, and the classification based on the function of the neuron. Okay, so what are processes? Okay, so what are processes, we will look now. So I will draw the diagram of the neuron, just we have covered, okay, right now. So this is a cell body. Okay, then from the cell body there is arising of the numerous types of the dendrites. Okay, so these are the dendrites, and from one end of the cell body there is which part arises? Axon arises, and it divides into the terminal branches. Okay, and then terminal branches will form what? They will form the synaptic nodes. So this is a diagram of a axon. Okay, so processes are what? Processes, there are 2 processes in the neuron, axon and dendrite. So based on number of processes, number 1 is the unipolar. So unipolar means what? There will be only one process. One process means what? There will be cell body. This is a cell body. Cell body will have a nucleus, and it has only one process. This is one process, and this one process will act as a dendrite, and this one process will also act as a axon. Okay, then the second type of the neuron is a bipolar neuron. Bipolar means there will be how many processes? 2 processes. Okay, there will be how many processes? 2 processes. So here there will be a cell body. Okay, then there will be a one process and the another process. This process will act as what? This process will act as a dendrite, and the another process will act as a axon. Then the third type is which type? Multipolar, means there will be multiple processes. So multiple processes means what? There will be multiple dendrite, but there will be only one axon. Okay, so there will be multiple dendrites. Here you can see there are multiple dendrites, numerous in number, but there will be only one axon. The axon is only 1 in number. Okay, then we move on to the next type of the neuron based on the number of processes, called as the pseudo-unipolar. So pseudo-unipolar neurons means what? Pseudo-unipolar neuron means what? That there will be a cell body. This is a cell body. Okay, and that cell body has a nucleus. From the cell body there will be a one process which will be arise. Okay, I will draw it again. Okay, so there will be a cell body. Okay, this is a cell body, and from that one cell body the one process will arise. This is a one process, and that one process will divide into 2. Okay, that one process will divide into 2. This is cell body. From cell body only one process arises. That one process will travel some distance and then divide into 2. One will act as a dendrite, and the another one will act as a axon. So because only one process arises from the cell body, it is called as the unipolar. But that one process will divide into 2 actually, and one of them act as a dendrite and the another one act as an axon. That is why it is called as a pseudo-unipolar. It assumes to be unipolar neuron, but it has both the axon as well as a dendrite, and that's why it is named as a pseudo-unipolar neuron. student gets confused so much with this type of neuron. Okay, you have to remember this, that it has only one process. That process divides into two. One forms a dendrite and the another forms the axon. Dendrite goes towards the periphery, called as the peripheral process. The another name is the peripheral process. And the axon goes towards the central nervous system, called as the central process. This I will make you clear with the next diagram. Okay, then I will draw the diagram to make you understand the classification of the neuron based on its function. Okay, sensory neuron and the motor neuron. What is sensory neuron and what is motor neuron? So for that I will draw a transverse section of the spinal cord. Okay, then I will draw H-shaped gray matter, okay, and a central canal. This is the dorsal side, also called as the posterior side. Then this is the ventral side of the spinal cord, also called as the anterior side of the spinal cord. And this is what? This is actually TS of spinal cord, transverse section of spinal cord. Okay, so what is sensory neuron and what is motor neuron? Sensory neuron, the neuron which goes from the periphery to CNS, is called as a sensory neuron, and the motor neuron comes from the CNS to the periphery. Motor means what? To move, and movement will be of what? Of the periphery, of the limbs. So the impulse will come from the CNS to the periphery. Sensory means what? Sensory means senses. So senses get the impulse from the environment, and if they get the impulses from the environment, they will send the information to the brain. So that type of neuron is called as a sensory neuron, which takes the impulse from the periphery to the CNS is called as a sensory neuron, and the neuron which takes the impulse from the CNS to the periphery is called as the motor. So all types of the neurons, they pass through the central nervous system. So we just understand this by the help of the diagram, and also we will clear what is a pseudo-unipolar neuron here also. So I'll draw a hand here, okay, and that hand has a sensation of something, like take an example of a touch. Okay, the hand has a sensation of touch. So what will happen when a hand has a sensation of touch? There will be activation of the receptor. Okay, because receptor has which function? Receptor is having the which function? It will sense the change in the environment. It will sense the stimulus. So there is a touch, so it will be sensed by the receptor. Receptor is what? Dendrite. Already I have explained you this, that dendrite has which function? Receptor function. So dendrite will be having the cell body. So dendrite will go take the information from the receptor towards the cell body. So here there is a cell body. Okay, now the cell body will take the information and then send the impulse through the axon, and that axon will enter into the dorsal horn of the spinal cord. This is the dorsal horn of the spinal cord, and then it will end up by dividing into the axon terminals. So here can you see this is which type of neuron? This is the pseudo-unipolar neuron. Acting as what? Acting as a sensory neuron, because it takes the impulse of the touch. It takes the sensation of the touch from the hand, from the periphery to the CNS. Spinal cord is a part of a CNS, so it takes the impulse from the periphery, from the limb to the spinal cord, which is a part of a central nervous system. And that neuron is having the one process from the cell body. That process divides into the two. Okay, and that is why it is which type of neuron? Pseudo-unipolar neuron, performing the function of sensory neuron. Okay, or you can say sensory neuron are the pseudo-unipolar type of the neuron. So because this process is going towards the periphery, it is called as a peripheral process, and the another process acting as the axon is called as the central process. And this type of neuron is called as a sensory neuron. The cell body is present in what? The cell body is present in the dorsal root ganglion. All the cell bodies of the sensory neuron are present in the dorsal root ganglion, called as the, this color is not visible, called as the DRG, dorsal root ganglion. Okay, then after getting the impulse, what will happen? It will end on the motor neuron, because this is which part of spinal cord? This is called as the ventral horn. So ventral horn are motor. So from here the motor neuron will come and take the impulse back to the head. So because it is taking the impulse back from the CNS to the periphery, it is which type of neuron? Called as the motor neuron. So this is a classification of the neuron. Hopefully it is clear to you. Then this is a diagram from the Ganon showing all the types of the neuron. Unipolar neurons, always remember to learn the examples quickly asked in your vivas. Unipolar neurons, the example is which type of neuron? Invertebrate. Invertebrates has a unipolar neuron. Bipolar neurons are present in the retina, as well as olfactory neuron is also the bipolar neuron. Then pseudo-unipolar neuron, you can see peripheral axon to skin and muscle, you can see peripheral process, and then central process will go towards the center. Okay, so this is present in the ganglion cell of the dorsal root, or you can say dorsal root ganglion is an example of the pseudo-unipolar neuron. Okay, then there are multiple types of the multipolar cells. Like this is a classical type of the neuron, okay, which we draw. This is actually a motor neuron of the spinal cord, the classical example of the neuron which we draw quickly in every exam, and every book actually gives the example of the multipolar neuron. And these multipolar neurons are which type of neurons? These are motor neurons. Okay, then another type of the cell is a pyramidal cell of the hippocampus, and then the Purkinje cells of the cerebellum. Okay, you can see here the dendrites form such an extensive network to increase the surface area for getting the information. Okay, so with this we reach at the end of this video. Hopefully everything is clear to you. Some points are very important here, like myelin sheet in CNS is formed by the oligodendrocytes, but in the PNS it is formed by the Schwann cells. Then the basic parts of the axon, their functions, and the types of the neurons plus their example is extremely important for your vivas. They could be asked even in your NEET PGs. Okay, so please follow HM Learnings on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook for daily updates to rock your viva and to boost your knowledge. Please like, share and comment on this video. Till then, keep learning.